5 or so minutes left in the game. Missouri knocks off Mississippi State 85-73. But the last game of the night, which was already pushed back because of some earlier games, Oklahoma and Kentucky. If you, like me, you started to get the eyes started to get a little heavy about 7-8 minutes left in the ball game. You felt good. You felt like, okay, Kentucky's in control. They're up by I think 13 at this point. You're kind of, okay, well, I could probably afford to rest my eyes a little bit. And boy, oh boy, I woke up just in time. I'm talking about just in time. I think I woke up, it was like 38 seconds left. And I was like, hey, whoa. How in the world did Oklahoma get the lead? Jeremiah Fears is his name. And again, we talk about these freshmen and you make a name for yourself in March. Jeremiah Fears may have single-handedly helped Oklahoma find themselves in the NCAA tournament as a freshman, as a guy that is just, by God, there's no guarantee that we may be, have a select, we'll be part of the selection Sunday, but we're going to fight. We're going to die trying. And Oklahoma takes a lead. If you're Kentucky, one, you shouldn't have let him get to the cup the way that he did, but also the talent in which Jeremiah Fears is. He gets the ball after a timeout. He starts chewing the clock, gets to the hole, boom. Oklahoma takes an 84-83 lead with about 5 seconds left.
And then how about we listen to how the final 5 seconds of the game sounded last night. If you were watching it on the SEC network, this is what you would have heard.
He's going, he drives, he puts it on! And in with a half second to go! Oweh did it again to Oklahoma! A walk-off shot from Otega Oweh, and Kentucky will...
Otega Oweh, baby.
Woo. Yeah, that was...
Talking about getting some revenge.
Yeah, no kidding. And, I mean, again, just the storyline of... So, I mean, if you go back a couple weeks when they played in the regular season, if you remember... He had the last 18 points of the game for Kentucky, and they won that game. And then last night you had Jeremiah Fears, who had 10 points in the final minute and 10 seconds of the basketball game to give Oklahoma the lead with 5 seconds left. And then, yeah, Otega Oweh goes full court by himself. Full court, baby. Give me the ball through traffic and makes, a crazy layup with his left hand while his body's out of it. It was an incredible shot. And of course, if you've, kept up and you're familiar with the story, I mean, he played for Oklahoma last year. And so now he has been their kryptonite in 2 games here in the last month where he single-handedly gotten the win for Kentucky. But I mean, like you were saying, I mean, it was one of those things where I was like, I think I can go to bed right now.
Yeah.
And then, for whatever reason, it was just, no, it's the SEC tournament. It's March. You never know what can happen. The last time these teams played, it was crazy. And you had, I mean, again, the fact that Kentucky, who had 3 turnovers in the last minute and a half of the game, they had back-to-back turnovers when it was a 2-possession game, and they allowed and I mean, credit to Oklahoma and their defense, man, because when they went full court press, I mean, it was.
Oh, they had made Kentucky look like they didn't know how to play basketball.
Absolutely.
For a period of time.
I mean, it made if Oklahoma had held on to win that game, if Oweh didn't make that shot, I mean, it would have made the final 30 seconds of that Tennessee-Alabama game where Alabama just imploded. I mean, it made that look like child's play for a second. I mean, what Kentucky was doing, you were just sitting there like, how did this happen? I'll give you one. Okay. I'll give you one inbounds and a bad pass, or, you kick a ball or something out of bounds. But for that to happen back-to-back times, just an absolutely incredible basketball game.
It really was. And like I said, man, my eyes got a little heavy about halfway through the second half. I was like, okay, I could probably, get about 10, 15 minutes, just a quick little power nap. Like if you're digging in the church, you understand. Like your eyes get a little heavy, you just drop down a little bit, but you pick it back up. Then I got back up and I was like, Oklahoma has taken the lead. What is going on? What is about to happen? And then Otega Oweh, he hits the dagger, and Kentucky advances 85-84 to take on the Alabama Crimson Tide. That game approximately 8:30, depending on how the first 3 games of the day go.
I was about to say, as we learned last night, maybe 9:45.
Right, but it's the last game of the day. We do know that for sure. But just going back and recapping just what all happened yesterday. We started off with Ole Miss and Arkansas, which Ole Miss had opportunities to put that game away a lot earlier than they did, but got to give a lot of credit to Arkansas and the way that they performed yesterday. Ole Miss gets it 83-80. But it wasn't the prettiest of ball games. But when Ole Miss needed a play down the stretch, Padula ends up, man, he only had 10 points, but it felt that the 10 came at the exact right moment. And how about Malik Dia? I was unfamiliar with his game because I thought, when I go back and I think of what the first game I remember him making an impact was Alabama. And most of his damage was just done on the block. Well, yesterday he showed that he got a little range. He threw up a 3-pointer. He's, taking step back, inside the 3-point line, mid-range shots. And I was like, okay, he's putting it all together. And he was the engine that Ole Miss needed yesterday. And for Arkansas, you end up having, it could have been a March Madness, it could have been a March Miracle if they would have hit the full court shot. But you had opportunities in that ball game where it wasn't like Ole Miss just straight up took it from you. It was turnovers at the wrong time. And it was, defensively, you're holding everything up. And then all of a sudden, boom, somebody's wide open at the end in the basket, or they're hitting a three just in crunch time situations. But altogether, I think, it set the tone for what the rest of the day was going to be in the SEC tournament yesterday with Ole Miss and Arkansas.
Yeah, I mean, and that was a game where, again, early on, Ole Miss got out. I think they started on, it was 9-0 Ole Miss. And then, they did a good job of, they maintained a lead into halftime, but Arkansas, battled back and made it interesting. And then the second half, like you were saying, there were opportunities for really both of them to kind of pull away and put the game away, and it just didn't happen. And yeah, Sean Padula, a guy who's been really, really good for Ole Miss this year. They had a lot of guys that are averaging right around 10, 11 points a game, but he's been their leading scorer this year. Transfer from Virginia Tech, really good shooter. And for him to be 0 from 3, and you're just sitting here like, all right, at some point he's going to hit a shot, right? If he keeps getting these opportunities, eventually one of these shots is going to fall. And I'll be darned, he ends up hitting the shot with 1 second left from 3 to send Ole Miss into the next round of the tournament. But yeah, if you're Arkansas, again, you had 15 turnovers. You missed, you shot a dozen more free throws than Ole Miss, but you missed 11 free throws yesterday. So that's something you can certainly kick yourself about if you're Arkansas and Coach Cal. And but no, again, it was just a very good game, just back and forth the entire way through. And if you're Auburn, you're maybe not too upset about a game like that where it's going to wear them out a little bit, just from being such a back and forth and such a physical game you had yesterday between those two. But no, hey, credit to Ole Miss. It would have been easy for them to just kind of roll over and go, do we really want to play Auburn again? Arkansas, coming off the win over South Carolina, maybe feeling like, okay, we got to prove that we can avoid that kind of disaster yesterday. But, at the end of the day, you needed one shot, and that was the difference. And Ole Miss hit it, and Arkansas didn't. So, credit to Chris Beard. And the good news for Ole Miss is congratulations. Your prize is you now get to play a pretty ticked-off Auburn team today at 12 o'clock. So, good luck with that.
Yeah, that's the prize. But welcome to the SEC tournament. And boy, oh boy, speaking of welcome to the SEC tournament.
Best game of the day.
Absolutely. The Texas Longhorns, the Texas A&M Aggies, in a rivalry game that you could tell on both ends. It had a little bit more juice than the other games. Like, you could tell on both sides of it that
half the players fouled out.
Man, it was physical. It was physical, and it wasn't just two halves that they could play. It wasn't just one overtime. It was double overtime to decide a winner in this matchup, with the Texas Longhorns knocking off the Texas A&M Aggies 94-89. And there was a play in overtime where Buzz Williams has to be kicking himself. Wade Taylor hits a 3. You're thinking, oh, okay. Buzz Williams calls a timeout. And as soon as he locks eyes with Wade Taylor, he's like, I'm sorry. Like, my bad, dog. Because at that point, Texas A&M it would have been a 2-point lead if the three would have counted. And it kind of felt as though Texas A&M was about to get the momentum because that's really what it was all about, is who caught momentum at the right time. And Texas A&M, he hits a three, but they call a timeout, the whistle blows, and Buzz looks at Wade Taylor's like, I am so sorry. I apologize, brother. And Wade is like, Coach, dog, the one time. The one time, dog. I got you. But I will say this. Texas, as a 13 seed, coming into this SEC tournament, and they're kind of on the bubble of, are they going to be the first four out, or are they going to be the last four in? Well, I think this journey that they're taking on this SEC tournament run right now is solidifying their spot in the NCAA tournament. This Texas team, if you hadn't watched them all year and you watched them last night, it wasn't like we talked about Trey Johnson. We know how good he is as a freshman. But when you want to talk about the depth that you got to have as far as in games like this, because like you said, a bunch of people fouled out on both sides. And when you look at just how physical that the game was, you needed guys to step up. And Texas they got an 11-point lead at one point, but Texas A&M just kept fighting. They kept fighting, end up tying it up, going into the first overtime. And then in the first overtime, Texas A&M gets up by 4, and you think whoever gets a 2-possession lead at some point is going to win this basketball game. But then Texas just keeps fighting back. They end up tying it up 79-79, and then in the second overtime, they end up turning Texas A&M over one time, and that's all it took. And then Texas started to put on the points, and they end up winning 94-89. By far the best game of the day.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty back and forth the entire way through. I mean, Texas, in the first half. The first half was pretty ugly, especially for A&M offensively. It just wasn't happening for them. But, it was still a pretty close game at halftime. And then you come out and Texas A&M, comes out of the half with their hair on fire. And you're like, oh, okay, all right, this was fun for Texas. But Texas A&M, maybe they were just playing with their food a little bit. All right, they remembered, hey, we're a pretty good basketball team. And Texas is, if we let them win this game, they might find themselves in the NCAA tournament. And then Texas just turned around and said, no, actually, I think we're going to take that lead back. And that's when they put it back up to whatever it was, 9-10 points there in the second half. But credit to Texas A&M. And I will say, at the end of the regulation and then going into overtime, as critical as we can be about, a guy like Wade Taylor at times who, when he's on, and when he's off, he's going to put up a lot of shots, and not a lot of them are going to go in, and you're just going to be kind of going, all right, what are we doing here, big dog? Like, it's just really not your day. For him to go 17 of 18 from the free throw line and that kind of a game and hit multiple free throws in crunch time and just cold-blooded in those kinds of situations was awesome. But then on the Texas side of things, you had Shedrick, who came in there. He was shooting, I believe, 65% from the free throw line on the season. He goes 10 for 10 from the free throw line for Texas, including 2 big ones in overtime.
Yep.
And you're just kind of sitting there and you're like, my dog. Like, that's what I'm talking about there. Because there were a lot of moments yesterday talk about Oklahoma, where you're just sitting there and you're like, man, you can separate yourself. If you're just hitting your free throws, man, you can start to separate yourself. And that's something we talked about with Alabama a lot at times this year and some other teams where it's like, man, this is like, it's such a fundamental thing. And look at how different some of these games would look if you just hit your free throws. And credit to Texas and Texas A&M, they were able to do that yesterday. But yeah, that was what I was expecting going into that game yesterday, just knowing, because that was the game I think a lot of us were probably the most excited for, because knowing what was on the line for Texas, as well as just the bad blood between those two programs and how it would play out. And credit to Rodney Terry for, when he needed to rally the troops, he's doing that right now. And I know they did a little cut in at one point yesterday with Joe Lunardi on ESPN, and according to him, at some point last night, he had Texas as the last team in the tournament. So we'll see if that's how it looks later today, or if any of the other matchups ended up kind of affecting that. But it looks like we might have 14 teams from the SEC getting into the NCAA tournament, which is just wild because we've talked about that number for the last couple of months, and I never thought it was actually going to happen.
Right.
It sounded really nice, but I was like, it's probably more likely that we get, 10 or 11 teams in than 14. And it looks like we very well may have 14. And of course, Texas can continue to help out with that. And, I do wonder how it's going to play out because you get to play Tennessee now if you're Texas. And after playing how physical of a game it was yesterday, going to double overtime, I think the last team I would want to play is Tennessee because we know how it might be. So, I'm not going to be surprised if that game today is like 50-45.
Exactly.
They're going to be tired.
Yeah, man. I hope they got reservations for the ice bucket after the game because their legs are definitely going to be beat up after the past 2 games that they had and then the extra time. But this is the fun stuff that we get to see in tournament season. But we do get Auburn and Alabama in action today as the top 4 seeds will be on the floor. Auburn getting things tipped off at noon against Ole Miss. Then we have Tennessee taking on Texas, Florida and Missouri for game number 3. And then the nightcap, we have the Alabama Crimson Tide taking on the Kentucky Wildcats. I think we have it's Friday, ain't it? Let's do a little final score Friday in the SEC tournament. If you want to do all 4 games, that's fine, but we definitely want to know what you think the final score is going to be between Auburn and Ole Miss, and for the nightcap with Alabama and Kentucky. 205-834-9450. You can send those text messages in. You can call in. Let's have some fun previewing some of these SEC tournament games and get some of these final scores. On the other side, we'll return here on Morning JOX and JOX 94.5. 6:23 here on Morning JOX. JOX 94.5, Damian Mitchell, alongside Conrad Van Order and you as well. Our wonderful listeners, 205-834-9450. Your text message, your calls, always welcome here on Morning JOX as we get a chance to see our Auburn Tigers and our Alabama Crimson Tide hit the floor today in the SEC tournament as the top four seeds do make their first appearance in Nashville this weekend. Auburn gets things started at noon. And now it's that game will be on ESPN. The first two games will be on ESPN. Auburn and Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Texas will both be on ESPN. Then you flip it over to the SEC network for the nightcap for the second half with Florida and Missouri. That game, game number 3, and then the wrap up with Alabama and Kentucky. And it's Final Score Friday, y'all. 205-834-9450. You text in what you think the final scores are going to be for some of these matchups. Somebody texted in and says somebody has Alabama 84, Kentucky 77, and he also has Ole Miss 78, Auburn 73. Shock the world, Ole Miss.
Okay. Yeah, well, as it stands right now, let's see. Alabama, 6.5 point favorite. Auburn, and 11.5 point favorite over Ole Miss today. So just for, anybody that's interested in that information, that's what you have there. But with a 7-point win for Alabama over Kentucky, that's what we call a cover as well. So.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for.
For if that's something that matters
that's something,
to you.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Whatever tickles your fancy, man. For entertainment purposes only, but do with that information as you wish. We have somebody text in and says Auburn will defeat Ole Miss 85-65. WDE. I'd lean for that one.
Yeah, I
would lean more towards Auburn.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think Auburn's going to win the ball game.
I would hope so. That'd be odd choice of shirt if you didn't think they were going to win the game today.
No, they're locked in, man. They needed the rest. They did,
and
they got it.
They did.
I don't know if Ole Miss is ready for what's about to come, dog. I really don't.
You think it's going to be ugly?
I have a feeling that it could be. I'm leaning more towards Auburn separating it at some point during the game and realizing, like, hey, we're the number one team in the nation. Well, at one point we were.
So 11.5 points doesn't scare you for
not at all.
No.
Confident. Denver Jones, that ankle's healthy. Chad Baker-Mazara, he's older. He's developed. What do they say in tournament time? You need veterans. You need older players to step up. Well, Auburn's damn near got the oldest player in college basketball right now. So I believe his leadership, along with the Janai Broome, the best player in college basketball right now, healthy. It's a key point. Let that simmer down and let that marinate over all the Cooper Flag fans. But Cooper Flag did suffer an injury yesterday in the ACC tournament. And
it looks like he's going to be okay.
Exactly.
The x-rays were negative, so he's probably not going to play the rest of the ACC tournament, but I think he'll be back for March Madness.
And if you're John Shire, you're like, it's not even. Even if you are healthy, dog, we'll see you next week.
Yeah, no, we're good.
We'll see you next week. Go ice that thing, put a boot on it. It'll be good to go. Make sure you're ready for the long haul. We'll
They got bigger
this.
fish to fry.
Exactly.
Plus, let's be honest, with the way the ACC is, that they can probably just win it without him.
Just start the whole second team.
Let's be real.
Start the whole second unit. Just put them out there, and then let the chips fall where they may. Because I still think they're going to go out there and just mop the floor with everybody anyway. So, somebody else texted in 205-834-9450 on this Final Score Friday. We have somebody that has Auburn 89, Ole Miss 79, Bama 94, Kentucky 80. That's Marcus from Gulf Breeze. He says that Bama's going to knock off Kentucky 94-80 and Auburn 89-79.
Yeah, it is interesting because, these are, both matchups where, Auburn's beaten Ole Miss twice this year. Alabama's beaten Kentucky twice this year. And, trying to beat someone for a third time is definitely not easy. But you also do have, again, for Auburn, you got an Ole Miss team that's had two games a game yesterday that was pretty physical, and I would imagine a little emotionally draining for you coming down to, literally the last second of the basketball game. And then you got a Kentucky team that I think they're going to be a little tired. They didn't get off the court until 12:15, 12:30 last night and got to turn around and play again tonight. Something tells me they're probably hoping, somebody go to overtime. Let's have another double overtime game today. Like, give us a little extra rest.
Somebody's got the Tide's gonna roll 96-84 over the Kentucky Wildcats. And then Drake, you know he's a Florida fan. He don't care about Alabama. He don't care about Auburn. He has Florida knocking off Missouri 87-74.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We're predicting some sizable wins today.
Joseph texted in. He has Ole Miss knocking off Auburn 82-77. Texas over Tennessee 79-70. Alabama over Kentucky 90-75, and Florida over Missouri 81-71.
I'm gonna guess they're an Alabama fan.
Gotta be.
Picking against Auburn and Tennessee, I respect it.
I do.
Keep the hate alive.
Exactly.
I respect it.
It's the battle for the real UT.
Oh, no, sorry, sportsmanship. Have sportsmanship.
Pass it on. That's what we need more in sports. Sportsmanship. That's what the transfer portal is for. When you're in a bad environment, you can just hit the transfer portal and go to a good one and pass.
Well, go to a team with
on.
more sportsmanship.
Absolutely. That's what TJ Finley did. Went from LSU to Auburn.
Which time?
And then from Auburn to Texas State, and then from Texas State to Western Kentucky. It's all about sportsmanship. Pass it on. Spreading the message. That's what we're here for. Bo from Haleville, he didn't think he doesn't think the Chad Baker Mazzara leadership thing is where we need to go. He said Baker Mazzara is the type of leadership that will put you straight in the ditch. Age doesn't give you such abilities.
No, but as Damian said, he's
a veteran.
Older.
He's an older, and that's what they tell you wins basketball games in March. You have to have veterans on the floor
and good guard play.
And Auburn has
what?
that.
He's a guard and he's old.
Come on.
For college basketball.
That's all you need.
Tournament MVP. Write it down.
Chad Baker Mazzara. I'm here for it. Conrad said it, not me. 205-834-9450. We continue on this Final Score Friday. Who do you think's going to win these games today? Auburn, Ole Miss, Tennessee and Texas, Missouri and Florida, and Alabama and Kentucky. You ain't got to give us no explanation. We just asked what you think the final score is going to be. Have some fun with us. On the other side, we'll get to your text messages, your calls. On the other side, keep it locked right here on Morning JOX and JOX 94.5. There we go. That's the vibes. Those are the vibes we feeling this morning, baby. 6:35 here on Morning JOX. JOX 94.5, Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order, and you as well, our wonderful listeners. 205-834-9450. It's Final Score Friday, and we have another one with the top 4 seeds finally jumping on to the playing surface there in Nashville, Tennessee, as Auburn gets things started at noon today on ESPN. You can also hear it on JOX 2 100.5. Auburn taking on Ole Miss. The second game, Tennessee taking on Texas. Both of those games on ESPN and also 100.5 JOX 2. And then we have Florida and Missouri. Those games will be on the SEC network as game 3. And then the final game tonight will be Alabama and Kentucky, again, on JOX 100.5. JOX 2 if you want to listen to it on the SEC network if you want to watch it on television. So we ask you, as we do on most Fridays, we did it during football season, but we have big games over the weekend. Of course, we want to make sure that we have fun doing Final Score Fridays where we don't ask any questions. We just ask for you to send in your scores like our buddy Fix It. He texted in and he says he has Auburn knocking off Ole Miss 92-73 and Chad Baker-Mazara with no flagrant fouls. There we go. That means we are trending upward. He has Alabama falling to Kentucky 96-94 in overtime. He also squeaks in that Bama sucks. So I'm guessing he's a big Auburn fan. And then he has Tennessee knocking off Texas 63-51. Somebody else takes in and says, I think Alabama is objectively better than Kentucky, but as a Bama fan, I'm nervous about this matchup. No way Alabama has beaten Kentucky 3 times in one season before, right? I don't know too many schools, if any, have beaten Kentucky 3 times in one season. I'm trying to think if Cal had any of those NIT, when a couple of those NIT runs that somebody get them 3 times in that season, but I don't know. Here comes Allen. He has to throw a wrench into it. He says, did the veteran leadership help them win last year against Yale? Talking about Chad Baker-Mazara.
Well, no, because he was
that was last
in the
year.
locker room.
That was last year, Allen. We're talking about you develop year after year. That was when he was 24. Come on, man. At 25, you're a whole different man.
Hey, don't underestimate the Ivy League kids, man. They're smart. They see like the court in angles.
Exactly.
Like, all right, I got to take a 56-degree angle here. I mean, dude, they get it. Like,
yeah, I agree. They're there to play school and ball. Other schools are just there to play ball.
Mm-hmm.
They're there to play ball, but they get it on both sides. Somebody texted in and says, did you guys think the Oklahoma-Kentucky game ended up playing closer than expected? Absolutely. I thought Kentucky was just, I'm not going to say I thought Kentucky was just go out there and, roll the ball out and beat them by 10, but I thought that they would get to a pretty comfortable lead and not lose it. Again, that's why my eyes got heavy when they went up 13. I was like, all right, we're good. Oh boy, was I wrong?
Yeah. I expected Kentucky to win going in, but yeah, when Kentucky was up 10 with 1 minute and 25 seconds left in the game, I definitely expected them to win.
Mm-hmm.
And they did, but it took a little while to get there.
It did indeed. Let's go to the phone lines, 205-834-9450. Let's go to our buddy Edward. Let's give some Final Score Fridays.
Morning,
What's happening, Edward?
I think Auburn's going to play with vengeance. They're going to be angry that they lost the SEC final, and Ole Miss will be the victim. I think it will be 85-67. Alabama and Kentucky, Alabama going to be rest. They're going to be sharp. Kentucky, in the first half, going to play tight. But in the second half, their legs will be tired. So Alabama going to beat Kentucky 95-82.
Okay. All right, we appreciate you, Edward. I think the pace that Alabama plays with is going to help them out in a situation like this because, again, like to your point, Conrad, Kentucky just got off the floor this morning. They just got off the floor, and I see where Edward's mindset is. They'll probably come out in the first half, be ready to go, and then that second half when you kind of realize, like, whoo, legs a little heavier than they were, 48 hours ago, and that pace that Alabama plays with, I mean, you go back and forth, it's going to wear and tear. But the biggest thing for Alabama, got to make the shots.
Yeah, and I mean, even going back to the game yesterday where, I mean, Kentucky came out as hot as could be. I mean, you go up, you go down, you score an easy 2, and then you hit back-to-back threes. And, I mean, just like that, it's 8-0 Kentucky, and you're like, oh, man, all right, this could get ugly. And then, from there, I mean, it looked like it was going to be a bloodbath for the first couple minutes of the game. And then, you settled back down, and Oklahoma made their run. And, so, again, if you're Alabama, it's just about not letting teams get 9, 10, 12-point leads on you early on in the game. As we saw, that was, a big issue for them when they lost 4 of 7 to wrap up the regular season. And, I mean, yeah, this is the Kentucky team that, this is one of the few teams that you could come across if you're Alabama that can match you up and down the court. And just as quickly as Alabama could go on a 10-0 run, Kentucky can do the exact same thing. So, it's just for Alabama. How are you going to come out and start, right? Are you going to come out flat because you've been resting for a few days and, Kentucky's still coming off of a win and you're just, you kind of come out flat like you did last year against Florida? Or do you come out guns blazing and you're ready to go? All right, yeah, we needed a couple days of rest. Now we're good to go for the rest of the season. So, yeah, I'm very interested to see because, I don't have any questions about Auburn in the sense of, they have a chip on their shoulder now. And I know, knowing how Bruce Pearl operates, there's not going to be any lack of motivation. And I don't think there is going to be for Alabama either. But we've just seen, more times than we have with Auburn this year where Alabama starts a game flat. And, sometimes like in the Missouri game, like in the first matchup with Auburn, you just kind of dig yourself into such a big hole in the first handful of minutes of the game that even if you play well the last 37 minutes of a basketball game, you just can never find yourself climbing out of that hole. So beating Kentucky 3 times in the same season, though, I mean, that's
impressive.
Yeah, and I mean, the person that texted in, I don't know if anybody's ever done that before. I'm feel pretty confident that Alabama's never done that before.
Right. Because very rare that it's kind of uncommon that you'll see a team 3 times and
that you'd even have the opportunity.
Right. But hey, Alabama's got a chance to etch your name in history. You got a chance. 205-834-9450. Let's continue on the phone line. Let's go to our resident Auburn fan, Wardam Don Don. What's happening, Don Don?
Good morning, guys. Happy Friday to you. And Damien looking sharp in that Auburn outfit today, buddy.
Hey,
looking good.
War Eagle, brother.
That's right, Wardam. Guys, here's my predictions. Let's start with Florida. Florida 80-70. I think Tennessee and Texas is going to have a defensive battle. 64-60 Tennessee. Conrad, Alabama. I think y'all are in with Nelson playing good. I like Alabama 96-82. And then my Auburn Tigers. And, buddy, if Chad Baker, Missouri is my leader of my team, I'm in trouble, okay? Yeah. Broome and Cardwell are leaders of the team. But anyway, Auburn's going to bounce back with vengeance, and let's say 92-76.
Oh, man. Okay.
All right. Big win for Auburn. All right, Don, before you go, what are you expecting on Sunday? Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Auburn, Alabama, Auburn, Florida? What are you thinking for Sunday? What's your prediction for the championship?
I would say Conrad, and I think it's going to be Auburn and Florida.
Okay.
Who do you think wins the matchup, Florida or Auburn?
And then we can prove who's better. Okay.
Who do you think will win that ball game? Florida or Auburn?
I'm not ready to say that yet, Damon. I want to win the first two first. Okay.
Interesting.
You could just say Florida.
If you want to say Florida, just go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off. It's okay. Nobody's going to hold it against you.
No, I can't do that, Damien. I can't.
You've already said that they were the best team playing basketball.
That was 2 months ago in the heat of the moment after they beat us, buddy. Okay?
I don't know, man. It's all good, brother.
Enjoy the games this weekend, Don.
Hey, Damien, I'm just trying to be a good sport, buddy.
You're a good sport, Don. We appreciate you.
Alan texted and says, Conrad, does all the different war cries of every SEC team get tiring? Every season you get a different one. LOL. Roll Tide, roll forever.
Yeah, it's hard for me to know what I'm getting every day when I come into work. So, but I'm glad Damian. I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised. He might have been wearing a Duke shirt today.
No.
In memory of Cooper Flagg's ankle, but
Because
No,
I was listening to 3-Man Front yesterday, and Landrum had already pretty much
Landrum,
like his Achilles was on the ground.
Oh, well, yeah, Landrum thought his career was over. He was never going to play in the NBA. And I will say, in the moment,
It looked bad.
it looked really bad. So the fact that the X-rays came back negative, I don't know how, but that's good for him. I never want anybody to get hurt, regardless of what you think about the player or not. You never want anybody to get hurt. But it looked in the moment like, oh, this guy might actually miss the NCAA tournament. So the fact that X-rays came back negative, that was good. Certainly to see that he's going to get an opportunity to play. But yeah, something tells me. I know Auburn wants to win today. I fully expect Auburn to win today, but I think maybe with the Cooper Flagg injury, maybe that kind of settled it when it comes to a couple of awards, the number 1 overall seed. So we'll see. We'll see.
We shall indeed. And also, Alan, the only school that I don't have is South Carolina.
Why? Why do you hate South Carolina?
I hadn't got a shirt from him.
What'd Shane Beamer do to you?
Nothing. Honestly, I like Shane Beamer. I'm trying to figure out why I don't have a South Carolina shirt at the local store that I get some of this gear from. They don't have.
So South Carolina is your least favorite SEC school?
No, that's Texas A&M.
But you have Texas A&M gear
Sent to me. It wasn't by choice. But
have you ever worn it?
I think one time.
Well, you still.
One time.
That's more than you've worn South Carolina stuff.
That is true. So any South Carolina fans, you want to send some mediums this way? Hey, I'll rock it, baby. I'll rock it. I'll rock some. I'll rock. Can't say it. It was going to rhyme. I rock with 205-834-9450. We'll continue on the other side with Final Score Friday. We'll give you our predictions on the other side. Keep it locked right here on JOX 94.5. 6:51 here on Morning JOX. JOX 94.5. Damian Mitchell alongside Conrad Van Order here with you for a few more moments. As we get you set for McElroy and Kulik in the morning, coming up at 7 o'clock. And then at 10 o'clock, Conrad comes back with Landrum, Pat, Molly, and my fault.
What?
I put the sequence of people, and I threw "and" in there when I was referring to you. My fault.
Oh no, it's all good. It's all good.
That's my bad. And that'll be from 10 to 2, and then Paul Feinbaum, the Paul Feinbaum Show from 2 to 6 here on JOX 94.5.
And the good news is we will have live coverage for you of the Auburn Ole Miss game, so you will get to hear Landrum Roberts play-by-play for the last 2 hours of the show. That's all we're gonna do the last 2 hours of the show. We're not gonna no chit chat, no Pat Ponders, no worst thing I've seen.
Straight game.
Straight. We're all gonna leave. We're just gonna leave Landrum in the studio with the mic on, and he is gonna do play-by-play for the game in his Bill Belichick voice, which is actually quite good.
That should be pretty. That should be pretty fun.
That's not bad.
Appreciate it. I've heard a lot of sound bites, and it seems pretty easy. Seems pretty good. But that would be entertaining. Somebody texted in and questioned who will Damian be rocking if it's the BBC in the championship game, the Bammer Barner Classic.
Whew. Well, yesterday you were.
I was letting all the naysayers know.
You were, and today you're.
War Damn Eagle.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be 50-50. It just depends.
That's not how that works.
No, I'd probably lean Auburn if it happens. But Auburn is playing Ole Miss today. 11.5 point favorite. Starting things off on ESPN. Also, JOX 100.5 if you want to listen to it. JOX 2. I think Auburn wins. I think Auburn gets some 85 to 70. I think that Auburn is playing with a vengeance, and I think Ole Miss is just so happens to be the opponent that gets the wrath of that fury. I think Auburn's going to come out juiced up, handle their business. I think we get a big game from Janai Broome, Chaney Johnson, Tahad Pettiford, and everybody at 100% or near 100% after this rest. I think Auburn. I think they knock off that rust from the Alabama and Texas A&M loss, and they handle Ole Miss today.
Yeah, I certainly think Auburn's going to win the basketball game. 11.5 is a lot, just in any game. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I just think having a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, fresh legs. Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking 87, 74, something in that range, similar to what you were thinking. But yeah, I like Auburn to win by. I'll take them by double digits.
Yeah. I think we'll do the nightcap. We'll do Alabama, Kentucky next. I think so. Right now, Alabama is a 6.5 point favorite over Kentucky. I think it'll be closer than expected, but I do think Alabama wins the matchup. I see like a 94-90 game. I think it's going to be high scoring, but I do think Alabama, with this much needed rest at 100%, getting up and down the floor. Kentucky's talented enough to match up with you, but I think it's just going to be a little too much. Give me Alabama 94-90.
Yeah, I was going to go 95-90. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a very high-scoring game. I was telling you this in the break, but they were talking about this during the Kentucky game last night. So, Kentucky's won 6 games this year where their opponent scored 80 or more points, which is the second most in the country. Alabama has done that 15 times.
There we go.
So, yeah, high-scoring game.
Points will be scored.
Give me Bama, though.
I'm telling you, man. Top 4 seeds get to play today. Let's lock in, baby. McElroy and Kulik in the morning. Those guys are next.